Batman Soul of the Dragon is a brand new DC animated movie. I got the chance to watch it, and this is my review. But first, the movie stars Batman, of course, played by David Guntoli. We've got Mark Dacascos, who is playing Richard Dragon, Michael Jai White playing Bronze Tiger, and Kelly Wu playing Shiva. Now, what I really like about this movie is that it's original, it's new. Nothing like this has existed in DC live action or animated style before. It's set in the 1970s, and it does a pretty good job of conveying that with some of the music choices. But the reason I like this movie so much, and the last few DC movies I've really enjoyed, really liked, is because it's original, it's new, and I've liked the interesting stories that have been told with these characters that I love and some characters I don't even know. And I use comic books, I use animated movies to introduce me to characters I've never even seen before, so I get educated on them. So when they come to live action terms, I know a little bit about them, or even in live action terms, when a new character is introduced that I've never heard of before, it's an educational process for me because I'm learning about this character. Like the Birds of Prey characters, for instance. I didn't know anything about those characters. I went to the movie, I learned something new. The last few DC movies have been original, but DC movies in general in animated form have just been a rehash of old comic book storylines that have been famous for being great comic books. But I don't see any fun in that as a comic book reader or as a comic book movie fan. Some of my favourite comic book movies of all time have been X-Men, Spider-Man, The Dark Knight. Those are original new ideas. They take inspiration from the comic books of sorts, but they also do their own thing. And I don't see the fun of being a comic book reader, knowing a certain story, and then knowing that this director is taking a certain story, inspiration from that story, and then making a movie. And then fans are upset that this movie isn't really conveying what the comic book did. It's not frame by frame, it's not the exact same thing. And the directors end up changing something about it, and fans are a little bit upset. But that's my favourite part about comic books. I love when a director takes inspiration from 1, 2, 3, 4 comic books. He brings it into the film and he does something new. He changes it up. He changes a certain character dynamic. He changes the suits, the ending, how certain things play out. I love that because you never know what's going to happen. So when an original comic book movie in animated form or in live action form comes out, I'm excited because it's something that we've never seen before. Zack Snyder's world in the Batman v Superman movie, inspiration of course from The Dark Knight Returns 1 and 2, but he does his own thing. He puts an extra bit of spin on it, and I like those types of things. Now, DC animated films in the last while have done stories like The Killing Joke, and it's a rip-off of the comic book. It changes certain aspects, but Batman Soul of the Dragon is an interesting story because this movie is set in the 1970s. You will never see Batman like this. You will never see these characters like this. It takes inspiration not just from comic books, but also from James Bond, also from many Bruce Lee films, and probably a little bit from Batman Begins. This movie, the plot overall is pretty simple. There's no big thing to get. There's bad guys that need to be stopped. That's all I'm going to say about it because that's not really what this film is about. The villains are enjoyable and they are a threat, but it's not the main purpose of this story. The Batman character played by David Guntoli, he could definitely play the character again. I really liked him in the role. But the standout for me in a character that I actually was intrigued about was Shiva. And I would love to see Shiva come into a live action movie someday. And you know what? Kelly Wu, give it to her. She seems to be perfect for this role. I was really intrigued by her voice, the way she just kind of took over the character. Also, Michael Jai White could probably play his character in live action as well, Bronze Tiger. But Mark Dacascos, of course, John Wick 3 villain, absolutely loved him in that. He does a pretty good job with Richard Dragon, but I would have liked to see more. Now, Richard Dragon, you can't tell me otherwise. This character is basically Bruce Lee. He is cool. He's got cool one-liners. The action is brilliant. The action in this movie is top-notch stuff. If this action was in a comic book movie in live action, people will be absolutely raving about it. And I think in a way it's very John Wick-esque in terms of how the action is done. Now, of course, when you're doing animated movies, you can take a little bit more risks. You can do kind of action that you've never really seen before and that you would never see in live action. But there was a little bit of action that took me out of this movie in a way because I'm like, oh, that could never really happen. You know, that kind of thing, like a certain scene happens on a freeway, like that would never really happen. So it took me out of that a little bit. But this movie, if I was to describe this movie in one word, it would be cool. This is just a cool movie. The score, oh guys, the score. Watch this movie and tell me that this score is absolutely brilliant. I will agree with you, and I think everyone else will. It has that kind of funky pop kind of thing to it. It's just cool. It's mixed in with kind of the martial arts score movies, and it's just a really refreshing take to see Batman doing fight scenes with this kind of funky theme song. You know what? It suits him. Now, Batman in this isn't a forefront character. He's basically a side character. And I was thinking to myself near the end of the movie, I was like, are they really going to do a movie called Batman Soul of the Dragon where Batman himself doesn't have that Batman moment? And you know what? It was getting very close to the end of the movie. And then they do something pretty perfect in the last 5 minutes where you see that kind of Batman that you've always loved, but they don't give it to you all. They want you coming back for more. And this movie is definitely set up for a sequel, and it's one that I would really be interested and excited for, and one that I would check out on the very first day it comes out, because I really like this story. The interaction between the characters, perfect stuff. Great chemistry, and I'm sure that's hard to do with an animated movie because I don't know if everyone's in the same boot at the same time when they're doing dialogue, but it really played off really well. And I thought the cast, the core element of the cast, perfect stuff. They could definitely all play their character in live action form. I 100% believe that, and they are believable in the role and in the character. As I said, the overall plot is not anything to get really frustrated about. It's just a simple plot. There's a villain that needs to be stopped. This team comes together. Now, what the movie does really nicely, and I think would be something that would carry over very nicely to live action form, is they're telling the story, the plot of the film. But these four characters have known each other before. They trained in martial arts with a sensei in the past. That's how they all met. That's their origin of meeting. So basically we see each character in modern day. So we see a flashback and then we see them in modern day as the story progresses. So basically, we've got Richard Dragon. He's trying to recruit everybody for this kind of mission that he's trying to do. He meets Batman. He goes and he gets Shiva, Bronze Tiger. But before we meet those characters, we get a flashback of them back training with their sensei in martial arts. And it adds a lot to those characters and fleshes them out big time. You also get to see how much these characters have changed since we got to see them in their original form when they first met. How different they are now. Very different, I might say. But also, they have that old selves in them. The sensei character very much reminds me of Mr. Miyagi. Now, maybe that's because I just finished the Cobra Kai series and he is a big link in those 3 seasons. But definitely, Mr. Miyagi in terms of inspiration, those quotes, and the sensei in this movie is very much that. Now, he has a bondness towards Bruce Wayne. And if you're going into this movie thinking that Bruce Wayne will have flashy cars, suits, girls either side of him, this isn't the movie for you, because that is a different Batman altogether than the one we see in this movie, which I, again, really, really liked. This Batman is a Batman in 1970s, which is pretty cool, but it's a Batman who's kind of insecure about being the Batman. He doesn't wear his suit around his friends. You know, he's afraid to do those kind of things until he gets that confidence to wear the suit and be Batman. We don't really get that Batman moment until the last few minutes of the movie. When it comes, we love it, but we want to see more. But I liked how David Guintoli played the character, a very insecure Batman. It's something that we've never really seen before. And as I said, all side characters play these characters perfectly. They could do it in live action form. The action is very John Wick-esque. The action will get you up off your seat. And again, this movie is R-rated. There's loads of blood. There is guts. There is things being chopped off that shouldn't be chopped off. And that's what makes the film even more enjoyable. Overall, this film has absolutely everything but a great villain. If this movie had a great villain, I think this could be one of the best animated movies that I've watched ever, you know, because I think it has all those elements and it's really well directed. The characters are all fleshed out, probably bar Richard Dragon, which is a shame, but again, if a sequel does happen, we could see a little bit more with him. But guys, Batman Soul of the Dragon is a Batman movie that doesn't have very much Batman. And you know what? DC kind of anchor on Superman and Batman probably too much. They're afraid people won't come out unless these characters are the title in the movie. But if this movie was just called Soul of the Dragon, many people would have missed out on a great movie. They would have missed out on Shiva, on Michael J. White's Bronze Tiger, on Richard Dragon, on the Sensei. You know, they would have missed out on all these cool elements, the score, and that's a shame. But they had to put Batman in the title so people came out to watch this movie. And hopefully they can adapt in a way, because in a way this is DC's own fault. They need to flesh out these characters. They need to get people excited. So when a Lady Shiva or Shiva movie comes out, or a Bronze Tiger movie comes out, people get excited in their own right. They don't get excited because it's called Batman Soul of the Dragon. But again, they anchor on these characters to sell merchandise, to sell Blu-rays, to sell movie tickets. So they're probably going to stick to that formula because it's one that is working. But in the long term, is that really going to be a good thing for DC animated films, that it has Batman, etc., etc., Superman, etc., etc., because they aren't confident enough in these side characters? Like, this movie didn't need Batman, but I understand why they had Batman in it, even though Batman really wasn't in most of this movie. But again, guys, check out Batman Soul of the Dragon. A lot of fun. I enjoyed it. I guarantee you will enjoy elements of this movie because it's refreshing, it's unique, it's original, and that is something that's very hard to find these days. Look, Batman in the 1970s. What's not cool about that? Bruce Lee elements in it, James Bond elements in it, you know, Christopher Nolan elements in it. I really like this movie, and I actually was surprised. I wasn't expecting to like it as much as I did, but definitely go into this movie. You'll probably go in wanting to see Batman, but I guarantee you will come out talking about Shiva, Bronze Tiger, and Dragon, because I think those characters are pretty interesting. And in a sequel, they could be fleshed out a little bit more, and I think there's a lot you could do with these characters. But again, guys, 1970s comic book entry, not too bad. What did you think of the movie? Have you checked it out? If not, get on that, guys. You need to see this movie. It's pretty good. Don't worry about no Batman if you're a Batman fan. There's a lot to be enjoyed in this movie. Give a like, comment, subscribe. Thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate you coming to the channel. For more reviews, check out this channel. And for other DC, Marvel, comic book content, and movie content, it's all here. Okay, guys, have a good day. And remember, do something that makes you happy.